This week in IEW, we are doing lesson number 8, the sword and the stone. First, we have scowl, which means to look angry. Then we have disclose, which means to uncover or reveal. Then dislodge, which means to remove or force out. And lastly, we have contritely, which means sorrowfully, being sincerely sorry. So you can pause now and you can do the keyword outline, read the text and do the keyword outline with your parent, or you can follow along with me. The Sword and the Stone. It was a cold Christmas morning in London. The streets were filled with people heading for church, but instead of Christmas cheer, all seemed gloomy. England had been without a king for many years. This had caused much fighting in the land. Sir Ector, an elderly but respected knight, and his 2 sons, Sir Kay and Arthur, were sitting solemnly in the church. Sir Kay was a young, handsome knight, and 18-year-old Arthur was his squire. More and more people filed in. Suddenly, there was a great noise, and a burst of light blazed through the stained glass windows. Everyone rushed outside. To their surprise, a white marble stone sat in the churchyard. In it was a glorious jeweled sword. The archbishop slowly approached the curious sight. He read the words inscribed on the stone. "Whoso pulleth the sword out of this stone is rightwise born King of England." Of course, every knight tried to pull the sword from the stone, but all failed. "Our king is not here," announced the archbishop. "We must tell every knight in the land about the sword in the stone. We must find one who can pull the sword from the stone." It was decided that on New Year's Day, all the great knights of England would come to London for a great tournament. After the tournament, each would attempt to remove the sword from the stone. So on New Year's Day, Sir Ector, Sir Kay, and Arthur headed for London once again. They checked into the inn and headed for the tournament. As Kay's turn to fight neared, Arthur helped him with his armor. "Now hand me my sword," he said. "The sword?" Arthur gasped. "It's not here. It must be back at the inn." "How can I fight without my sword?" Kay growled. "Go fetch it." Arthur jumped on his horse and prayed for help. On the way to the inn, he passed the churchyard and saw the sword in the stone. "I'll just grab that sword," he thought. He hopped off his horse and hastily pulled the sword from the stone. He rode to the tournament in time for the match and handed Kay the sword. "That's not my sword," Kay roared. Then he looked at it. "It's the sword from the stone," he exclaimed. "How did you get this?" Arthur explained what he had done. Everyone gathered around. "The boy is lying," said some. So the crowd took Arthur back to the old churchyard. They told Arthur to put the sword back in the stone, which he did easily. Knight after knight tried to pull it back out, but it would not budge. "Okay, boy, now you try," demanded Kay. Arthur reached for the sword and effortlessly pulled it from the stone. At that, all bowed to him. "Hail to King Arthur," they said. Happiness was restored to the land that now had its rightful king. Okay, let's start with our keyword outline. When does the story happen? It happens during Christmas, in the morning, so we can put AM. What did people do? People went to church. Okay. Who is in the story? What were the people thinking? So the people were sad because, so B/C means because they didn't have a king. So they had no king. And so there was a lot of fighting. Then we're introduced to some specific characters, which included Sir Ector, which was an elderly knight, and he was in a church with his sons, Sir Kay, who was also a knight, and his son Arthur, who was only 18 years old. You can do years old or you can do years. And he was a squire. You can pause and copy or continue writing your own. So now we're going to talk about the conflict or the problem. So we know that while they were in the church, in the sad setting of life without a king in England, suddenly there was a loud noise. So just make it big, loud noise. And there was a burst of light. Okay, people ran outside of the church to see what happened. And they saw, what did they see? They saw a sword and a stone. The archbishop approached the sword and the stone and read the words on the stone, which said, "Whoso pulleth the sword out of the stone is rightwise born King of England." So, whoso pulleth the sword out of the stone is the King of England. So many knights tried and failed. So a tournament was planned. For New Year's Day. So our main characters, Sir Ector, Kay, and Arthur, went to the tournament. However, Arthur forgot Kay's sword So he went to get the sword, but he saw the sword and the stone in the old churchyard at the church, and he grabbed it. Kay recognized, that's not mine. Where did you get it? Arthur explained. So then Arthur explained to everyone where he got it from the churchyard, that he got it from the church. But they didn't believe. They didn't believe him. So they went back to the churchyard, and then they put the sword back into the stone. Knights could not pull it out. Arthur did pull it out, and the people bowed and made him king.